Hey, it's Captain Matt, Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon. Today we're going to talk about outboard engines, the pros and the cons of having an outboard on your boat. We'll start with the pros. First, having that outboard is going to give you more space inside the boat because you don't have to have that big old engine tucked down, taking up a lot of space. It's also simpler and easier to work on because you pull the cowling off and you have access to everything much easier. And that's in most cases. It's not always. And there's also, it's simpler because you don't have to transfer from the motor inside the boat to the power or the stern drive or the direct drive outside the boat. And there's no hole through your boat. There's no hole through that transom. That's going to require bellows that need to be maintained, gimbal bearings and U-joints and all of that transferring of the power inside to outside. Now, the new outboards, the newer four-strokes are incredibly quiet and fuel efficient. That's a huge benefit. And with the bigger horsepowers that they're producing that are quiet and efficient, they're really gaining a lot of market share over the last 5 years or so. Outboards, they're easy to extend the season. The winterization process is really simple. You've got to tilt them down and let all that water drain out, and that's going to take care of the freezing issue as long as you keep that water out of the hub. We've got several videos on winterization, but outboards are very simple. There's other things associated with putting your boat away for a long period of time, but winterization is just making sure that your engine doesn't freeze, and an outboard is very simple in that respect. Now, on an outboard, if you store the boat in the water, it's also very easy to tilt that outboard all the way up out of the water. All the way, even the skeg in most cases can get all the way out of the water. And it's simpler and some might say less maintenance because you don't have the bellows, you don't have the gimbal bearing, you don't have the transfer of everything from the motor to the outside and then everything in the lower unit. It's kind of all one in the unit, and it's less complex. Now, the cons. The cons are, for the big one, it takes up a big portion of that swim platform, a third. If you have a single engine, it's going to take up about a third and break it up right in the middle so you don't have that easy access to the water. For some, it may not look great. Depending on what your boating history has been, you may say, oh, that outboard is ugly looking there. Some people may say, man, that big old outboard looks amazing on that boat. And for some, that can be a pro. Just depends on where you're coming from. The older two-strokes, if you're looking at a two-stroke, and I'm not talking about the Evinrude G2, I've got my opinions on that. You can watch some of my videos there. But the older two-strokes, they're louder and they're less fuel efficient. So it's a con in the fact that, but they're simpler to work on, even more simpler than the four strokes. And another con, this is a minor one, but they can be more easily stolen off the transom of your boat. This is mostly for the smaller outboards, but there are even some rings, especially in South Florida, where they're hooking up and they've got cranes and they're legit crews that are yanking motors off. They're cutting all the cabling and they're yanking them off the bigger boats as well. So that's the pros and cons of outboard. If you're looking at buying a newer used boat, you definitely want to check out my Boat Buyer's Toolkit. It's totally free, boatbuyerstoolkit.com. It's packed with pages and pages, 25 pages of checklists, questions to ask, walking you through the whole buying process. You'll be glad you have it. There's some companion videos. Go check that out, boatbuyerstoolkit.com. Thanks a lot. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And remember, life truly is better on a boat.